Hey guys, and welcome to another tutorial by Tutorial Grid. I am Cherokee, and in this tutorial we're going to be focusing on the Adobe Camera Tracker tool. We've done a tutorial like this before, except it was with another plugin by the Foundry called Camera Tracker. This plugin is built in directly to Adobe in your effects and presets. It is 3D Camera Tracker. And that is this guy right here, the 3D Camera Tracker. But first, why don't you go on to facebook.com/avidproductions479 and just check us out and like us on Facebook, facebook.com/avidproductions479. We can keep you updated with everything that we're doing, all the fun stuff that we do, new tutorials, new projects that are coming out, as well as check us out on our website. We have the blog up, which we actually have a picture of what we're going to be doing. You can keep up to date with what we're doing there, as well as check out some more stuff. And also subscribe to us on YouTube. So onto the YouTube, hit our subscribe button. It should be on the right or somewhere on your screen, wherever they keep putting that thing, because they change YouTube a lot. But first, this is what we will be creating today. So we've got a big old asteroid or rock that is in our project. We've got some destruction around the corners. We've got some things here. And all of it is done directly on top of composited footage. We've got smoke in the front and the back to kind of give this more of a three-dimensional look. And notice nobody is around us because nobody seems to care. But yeah, so again, we've got blank canvas and we've got our meteor right here. We've got a lot of stuff around it. Let's go ahead and go directly into our composition. We've got a few little things here. We've got a few things that we're going to need to do. We've got our vignettes. We've got color correction. We've got some other stuff from Video Copilot, some elements that we're going to put in here. We've got some fairly realistic shadows, but we're not going to have 3D shadows because that's going to be another tutorial. We also have the smoke, and we're also using Video Copilot's Element 3D plugin, but we're also using one of our fun little things, which I will show you here in just a minute. So what we're going to do is, to start our composition, we're going to go to Composition, New Composition, 1920 by 1080, or whatever your frame is, your video footage is going to be set at. Whatever your video footage is going to be set at. Mine's 1920 by 1080, 29.97 frames, and duration, let's just call, I'm going to use 10 seconds, so I'll just do 10 and hit OK. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my footage into my composition here, and this is just some footage that I took from outside our Avid warehouse. Very simple stuff. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to align the footage with where you kind of want to start out at. So I'm going to kind of move mine around. Let's say right here. Yeah, that looks good. I think that's actually the same place that I started at. So we'll use it right there, and we'll actually keep this where you see the camera kind of turn, just to kind of, yeah, show the depth there. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our camera tracker. So we're going to type in 3D camera. So 3D camera. 3D camera. Drag that over on top of our footage, and it's going to analyze our footage here. So it shouldn't take too long. All right, now that we have our 3D camera tracker all rendered out and ready to go, you can see all these little dots that we've got. Basically what that does is it's taking different points and it's triangulating what the position of the camera would be and what the perspective is. It's kind of like what After Effects Mocha used to do. It kind of triangulates and tries to give out a certain plane, so you can add like lights and other perspective elements. So the first thing we're going to do is just kind of scrub through this and see what kind of points we've got working for us. So if you notice, we've got a lot of little dots that are coming in here, a bunch of little things coming in through here. But a lot of them are actually staying still. And one of the ones that we're going to use is actually this guy right here. If you've noticed, this one has been in the shot pretty much the entire time. And since all these others are going to be created, it's going to give us that nice, smooth, roundabout way to where whenever we turn the camera, it's going to still see our object in focus. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is click the little pointer right there, and we're going to hit Create Camera. That's going to bring our new camera, our 3D tracked camera, into our scene. All right, the next thing we're going to do is click our 3D camera tracker plugin, re-click on that little red dot, right-click, and create null object. So that's going to create a point in where pretty much we're going to set our objects on, and we're going to anchor that point into our center object around here, or if you want, you can find another point and anchor it off something else. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add this the meteor. Now we're not going to have it like in the video smack down. We're just going to put it in the point like it's already there, and we're kind of like walking up to it. So what we're going to do is go to Layer, New, Solid. And we're going to just name this Element. Element, if I can spell. There we go. 1920 by 1080. Same comp size. Make sure it's black. Hit OK and hit OK. So we're going to type in Element in our effects presets. Drag that onto our element. And we're going to hit Scene Setup. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our starter pack and go down to one of our rocks. Any of the rocks will do. Doesn't really matter. I don't really like that rock. I like that rock. The one thing I don't like about this rock is the fact that I really don't like the texture on it. So one of the things you can do is you can go over to our website at avidproductions479.com to our shop, and you can check out all the cool 3D textures that we have. We have a bunch of really, really neat textures, ground level textures. We've got metal textures, all sorts of fun stuff, only for $50. So they're very real. They're 4K. They're all around Europe. But one of the ones that I really like to work with is this white stone. Very cool to give kind of a comedy look. We have some marble if you like the glossier look. We've got another marble here, a little bit lighter. We also have some wooden looks, so if you want just like this wood a wooden asteroid or a tree, if you want to make it a tree, whatever you have that you're wanting to go set into your project, you got a tree. But for now, I am going to use this white stone texture because I want mine to be a little different. So it's going to be white. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click OK for now. All right, so that puts our rock into the scene. So one of the things that you really need to notice is look at the scene that you have. If you can see, we've got shadows in our foreground rather than our background. So our sun is going to be right up here. So we're shooting against the sun because our shadows are being cast this way. So if you can notice, we have a lot of ambient light right through here. So we kind of want to match up how our ambient light is going to. So you can see we've got some light in our foreground, so we're going to kind of mess with our ambient light for our asteroid. So go back into scene setup, and so notice it is just 100% 360 lit, and I don't like that. So we'll go into ambient, And we are going to turn that pretty much down all the way. And I'm actually going to turn it up to maybe maybe 50%. Now you're not going to see a whole lot here with it, but you will see it whenever we pop it back into our composition and then we really light the scene. And also, I don't want as much reflection because I want this to be really kind of asteroidy looking. And maybe, yeah, I want the specular up, actually, pretty much. I want it to be shiny like it just came down, but it's a different rock. This is a different type of rock. So, all right, we've got our rock. So we've just changed our ambient, our reflection, and we made this really kind of flat looking rock. Okay. And we'll hit OK. All right, so that didn't change a whole lot. You see that we've got our shadows here just a little bit, but we're still going to change some of the things that are going to allow us to compose this a bit better. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up to a third just to kind of give it a little bit better texture here. All right, so if you scrub through this, it's just kind of hanging out in space right now. So it's here. It's in space. We don't really want it to be just in space because, I mean, it's composed in there, but it's not composed well. We've got a floating rock, pretty much. That's what we got. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop down our group 1, and then we're going to go to particle replicator. And you're going to notice on the position X, Y, and position Z. Now, usually, whenever we composite 3D elements together, we usually just use an anchor point on our track null. But we don't really have... you can do that by using expressions if you know the entire expression you're going to use. But for this, I'm going to go ahead, and since we're not really changing anything, we're not really tracking a moving object or anything like that, we're going to copy and paste that into our element source. So I'm going to go down here to track null 1. We're going to pull down our Dropbox here. We're going to go to transform, and you're going to notice we've got our position, which is 604, 735.5, and 2393.9. What we're going to do is we're going to go back into our element and just look at our position points. So we're going to type in position XY on our first position. We're going to type 604. And then we're going to go to 735.5 right down here. Type that in. The third one is going to be our Z. Our Z space. So notice we don't have a Z space right here, so we're just going to go X, Y, then right underneath it is Z. So we're going to type in 2393.9 and hit enter. Now we have that right on our anchor point, and it's staying right there. Okay? But now we actually have this in our scene, so it kind of technically looks... Since our rock is actually our middle point right here, we actually want to offset our Y space. So basically what that does is we have here is where we're anchored. So right here is technically where it looks like it's staying. So we don't like that. We do not. So since we have our anchor point right here, we're actually going to move up on our Y. So by moving to the left, you move our Y spot up. Maybe a little more here. Okay, so now we have our rock right on our spot because our anchor point is now to the bottom. Now you can also go into element and change where the anchor point is, but this is just faster. You just push it right up. Now the second thing I want to do is I want to move this over in our X. So we'll just move it over to right on the scene. And you can move it anywhere in your scene if you want. It doesn't really matter. I just want mine over by about the center of our composition. So now we've got a rock in our composition. Yay! But our lighting doesn't look good. We don't have any color correction. This is just really easy. This is how you use the 3D camera tool. And if you scrub through it, we're going to go to our endpoint here. All right, so we scrub through it and see it just goes. We just move away from our rock. It is gone. And I mean, it's just really simple. That's pretty much the 3D camera tool. Really easy, simple stuff. So, but now we're going to work on our compositing skills, because the only way we're actually going to give this correct depth is if we really composite this in here. So that's 3D camera tool. If you're here just for that, you're done. That is it. But if you're here to really learn 3D compositing, let's move on. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go back to our file here, our MVI file, or whatever your video file is, and we're going to select camera tracker. And remember all these little dots that we have? We're going to select a perspective. So what we're going to do is we're going to select a perspective that we think is looking correct for our scene. This one right here looks pretty good, so we're going to use these 3 dots. It creates our perspective. So you see how this is flat. It looks very normal for the scene. And we're going to right click and we're going to do create solid. This is our tracked solid right here. So with our track solid selected, we'll go to layer, solid settings. Now I'm going to make mine 2000 by 2000. And I'm also, instead of red, I'm going to change mine to just black, straight up black. Okay? And hit OK. All right, so now that we have our correct perspective done, what we're going to do is we're going to find, we have our 3D checkbox already done here. We're going to go back again into our track null object. And we're going to hit the drop down box on there. And we're also going to hit the drop down box on our tracked solid. And let's just name this shadow. Okay. So we've got that named shadow. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is hit the drop down box for transform. And we are going to hit alternate and click position. That's going to bring up our expressions tab. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our pick whip and we're going to move that down to the position of our tracked null. So now that we have our black solid tracked onto our position, we're going to have to reposition this right underneath our rock. So what we're going to do is on our tracked solid, hit the down arrow again. And right on top of our position, we're going to see this thing called anchor point. And we're going to move this on the x-axis to where it's about the center of our rock. Okay? Now, make sure our track solid is selected and double click on our ellipse tool, or you can hold down if it's a rectangle and you can go to ellipse and double click it. That'll bring up a circle. The next thing you're going to do is hit MM. And that's going to bring down your mask properties. And you can do feather, or you can hit F and feather out the pixels of it. You're going to want to feather it out quite a bit. So let's just say around 820, about 800 pixels. And you can hit MM or just double click the arrow here to where it goes directly down. And we'll go to mask expansion, and we'll just bring down our mask expansion. So now we have a shadow directly underneath of our rock. Well, it's on top of it right now, but we'll bring it down underneath. But we'll just kind of bring this down quite a bit. Now we'll also drag this underneath of our rock right here. So we'll go ahead and drag that underneath. What we're trying to do is make it to where this looks more realistic here. Bring down the feather some more. And bring down the expansion some more. Now you'll probably have to play around with this just a little bit just to get it right. Okay, so now that we have our shadow, yeah, it still does not look quite realistic just yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Mode, and we're going to click Overlay. Okay. Now what that does, it just gives us a very little bit of a darkened area. So now we're going to select our shadow layer again, hit Control D to duplicate that. And now we're going to change our overlay back to normal. So that still looks very fake, and we're going to hit T for our opacity layer on our shadow 2 layer, and we're going to bring down and offset our opacity just to give it that added realism. All right, about right. We want to match our shadows right back here as much as we possibly can. All right, I'm going to move in my masks some more so I can kind of give this more of a realistic depth to it. Hit F again, change the feather, because the more we move it down, the more of that feather it's going to use. You want to try to match it up to these shadows as much as you can. So I don't like how small my rock is, so let's go back into our element layer, and I'm going to change the particle look, and I'm going to make it way bigger. Okay, now since we made it bigger, we're going to have to make our Y size a little, we're going to bring that up. So by moving up, you got to go down on your Y. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and just scrub through and see what that looks like. So this is what we got so far. We're walking, we've got a rock, but still doesn't look quite realistic enough. But our shadow actually looks pretty good. It's a very similar. It is a little bit darker, but if you know by trees, they are not a completely 100% dense object. So if you notice from our truck, it's very, very dark, but our trees is a little bit lighter. So we're actually going to deepen this up to kind of make it mask our truck a little bit better. So just bring up our opacity, not quite to 100. I'm going to actually put 95. It's going to give us a dark, but it's also going to give us our edge right here. Okay. But the more we scrub through this, it's actually looking pretty good. We've got a nice rock. But again, our ambient light source is still a little weird. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Layer, New, Light. And we're going to create a point light, white, and hit OK. That changed our lighting a little bit. If you notice, we have a little bit more highlights, but our light is still, you know, it's up front. What we're going to do is we're going to go on our Y-axis. We're just going to pull that up. And technically, that is still in our frame. It's in our light is in front of our rock. So we'll just hit P, and we're going to push this back in Z space. It's going to have to become our sun, basically. Push it back in Z space. Push it back in Z space. Okay. So now what we've got our light source. Let's push this up actually a little bit further. And push it back a little further. Okay. So now we've got our light source, which is on top of our rock. And we've got a little bit of fall off here. We're actually now going to create an ambient light. So we'll go to Layer, New, Light, go to Point, and hit Ambient. We'll actually rename this one Ambient and hit OK. Now that brightens things up quite a bit, but we're actually going to mess with it a little bit. So hit our down arrow, go to Light Options, and go to our intensity. Turn this all the way, turn it all the way down for now, back down to 0, and just push it up real slightly. 16, maybe less, like very, very subtle, because we've got a lot of dark areas right here, and right here you can still see what it is, but it's just going to be real subtle. So I'm going to put mine at about 11. So now we've got something that looks pretty realistic. We've got a shadow here. It's maybe a little bit darker than our tree. We're going to add some more stuff to really make this blend in pretty nicely. Okay. But notice our shadows are pretty correct. We've got just some real basic stuff going on. And yeah, we move around with our camera and it looks, this looks pretty good so far. So we've just got a rock in our scene. Okay. So the next thing what we're going to do is I kind of want this rock to be smoldering. I want there to be some just added funk, okay? Some added smoke. So, you can use some Video Copilot element stuff. They have a lot of stuff to choose from with their Action Essentials 2-pack. What I'm going to use is some Puffy Smoke. I think we're going to use this one right here, Puffy Smoke 2. I'm going to put that and drag it down to above our element layer. But, I mean, that's going to look pretty nice. So what I'm going to do is going to hit P for position. And I'm going to hit P for a position on our track null. Turn our 3D checkbox on. And notice we've got some problems going on with our light. But we're going to fix that here in just a second. Hit P. It's going to make sure you have 3 different coordinates, X, Y, Z. We're also going to make sure our track null position is up and ready to go. And on our Puffy Smoke layer, we're going to hold down alternate and click our time stopper tool here, our keyframe assistant. And we're going to hit the pick whip layer under expression, drag that down onto our position here, and click out. So now our position point is anchored directly to, again, this point right here. So the next thing we're going to do is change our anchor point on our Puffy Smoke and go ahead and click the down arrow here. And under anchor point, again, we're going to move it just slightly. Now, you technically don't have to do the anchor point if you don't have something that's slightly moved over from a point that we first created. If you are wanting to put it directly on the point that you have, awesome. You don't have to do a lot of this stuff because it's already going to be completely composited down there. But for this sake, we do have an anchor point and we do have it slightly over. So we're doing it this way. All right, and I'm going to move over on our x-axis to our smoke is right on top. I'm actually going to move this down just a bit, just right under. And the reason why is because we have this really harsh line right here, and I'm going to combat that with a mask. Okay? So the next thing we're going to do is under our smoke layer, we're going to go to Material Options, hit the down button on that, and where it says accepts lights, hit off. So it's going to say on, hit off. So now, if we get out of this, we've got some smoke coming up. All right, so to create a mask, we're going to go ahead and select our Puffy Smoke, and we are going to select our pen tool and just kind of start selecting that mask and kind of give it a little bit of a jagged, different edge. And just keep away from that straight edge right there. Just kind of pull it around and kind of go on top of this. Okay. So now we've got our mask selected, and hit F and just feather this out just a bit. Okay. So we've got our feather about 43 pixels. All right. And deselect that. So now we've got this cool little smoky effect going on, and it is composited directly. Oh no, we've got a harsh layer right here. We better put that in the back. So just found out a problem. Our smoke 2 can actually be thrown into the back. So what we'll do is, because you notice we have the harsh layer right here, so what we'll do is we'll throw that back behind of our element, and we will drag this back over. So hit P and hit our down arrows and change the anchor point back to about right behind the rock. You can hit S, or you can just change the scale of this. Make sure you're holding down Shift, and you just want to bring the edges of this right back, right off of composition frame. And you're going to want to center this up. So change that anchor point once again, and just center this right on up. Right about there. Okay. And you're also going to want to change the mask a little bit and make sure that this mask stays pretty much off of the screen here. So now we've got some smoke coming right out from behind of our rock. And you can kind of see it pretty well right through here, which is going to add to what we're going to do next, which was supposed to be what we were going to do first, but since I just realized that our smoke went right off our composition, we're going to use our Puffy Smoke 1 and put that on top of the element and redo those steps that we did with our prior element. So again, select P, hit P for position, make sure your 3D checkbox is on. You want to do that first before you try to tie in your position, or it will mess it up. Hold down alternate, hit our keyframe stopwatch there, select our pick whip and drag it to our null object position, and you should be good to go. Now hit the double down arrow again on our Puffy Smoke, go to the anchor point, and let's go ahead and center this up where our rock is. So change our X, change our Y, move that up quite a bit, and we will change our material options. So select our drop box here and accept lights off, and let's move that down because we're going to create another mask. So let's move this down a little bit, and let's go ahead and make sure this doesn't go off screen. All right, it is going right there, so we'll just move this over. You might even scale it up just a little bit. Move it over. All right, there. All right, so we got our smoke. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is create the mask. So go select our Puffy Smoke or whatever smoke layer you have, and let's just start creating that mask. So just kind of make a little bit of a jagged kind of edge here, and just kind of pull it all the way around, and done. Select F on our mask and just pull up the pixels to around 40-ish, maybe 50 or 60, just to kind of take away that sharp edge, which we still got that sharp edge a little bit. So we might move up our mask just a tad. And move that up a little bit. All right, so now we've got, we're walking with our little asteroid thing here. We've got some smoke. We don't really have anything going on the ground. It is literally just, it's there. It is just there hanging out. But it's smoking. It's awesome. So now the next thing we're going to do is kind of get rid of this the blue from this. We're going to work on our compositing skills. So let's go ahead and select our element later, and we'll type in curves. We want to give this a nice contrast. So let's type in curves. Push this down onto our element. Let's kind of give it a little bit more contrast here. I don't like the fake look, which might change our ambient. Pull that up maybe to 15. No, to 22 looks actually pretty good. Okay. And I'm going to go on our puffy smoke layer. Instead of having blue on both sides, I want to give it more of like an orange. I'd usually do this using curves, but with our alpha channel layer, it's not going to work that well. So I'm going to have to go to saturation, hue and saturation. Pop that down onto our puffy smoke. I'm going to desaturate it just a bit. I'm going to give it more of an orangish tone. Let's bring down that. Let's do curves. Pull that over. Just kind of bring it down some more. All right, now we'll go ahead and copy both of these settings. So hit both those settings and hit Control on both of them. Hit Control C or Edit, copy. Put that on your other smoke here. But I am going to change the hue slightly. So we had a blue. That's purple. Don't want purple. Got just kind of a misty, little bit of a misty blue kind of going on, just a little bit. Well, I actually don't like the way that looks. No, I'm probably going to keep it about the same. Yeah, I'll probably keep it little bit of blue, a little bit of this color, just so it just kind of brings it out. Give it that little bit of a cinema tone here. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is, now one other thing you can do on this is you can give it more of like a cracked look, like it just hit the ground. And with that, you can just use some of those elements that we used for from Video Copilot and bring those, and you want to put it underneath the element, your 3D object. And it just looks like this. And again, you'll just track your 3D object. So hit P, make sure your 3D checkbox is on, and alternate click on position. And with your pick whip, drag that down to position and click out. And now that is correctly positioned up. And you'll just change your anchor point. So double click the down arrow and change your anchor point. Move your X over, and technically this should be correct because your it is centered, so it should give you a very good look for what we're going to be doing here. And I'm going to change the scale, so under scale at 100%, just pull this down just a bit, down, and move over the anchor point again. Okay, so what we're going to do is on our ground cracked layer, we're going to go back into the material options, and we're going to use accept lights, turn that off. And we're going to go to mode and overlay. All right, so what we have now is we've got smoke, we've got our ground cracked, we've got some cool looking smoke in the background, we have our 3D foreground, and everything's composited on pretty nicely. The one thing that I'm going to do now is change, just do some slight color correction. So what we're going to do is go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and on with our curves, so mine selected, just type in curves, drag that on top. All right, we're going to add some blue. Really just kind of add the blue there. We are going to maybe take out some of the reds here. Put some of the reds back into our shadows just a little bit. And on our regular overall, let's just make it a little darker. It's looking a little purple. So let's just add a little bit of green in. So now we've got our scene. So what we've got is this cool little rock. We've got stuff in the foreground, stuff in the background. We have this in 3D. So with our camera walking, we were able to track the camera, put something into our 3D space, put stuff in the foreground and the background, giving it that added depth feel. We can do more with this, but this was really just a tutorial on how to use the Element plugin in the 3D with the 3D camera tracker, how to kind of set up the lights fairly well, and how to set up some composited shadows. But this was a pretty good tutorial. I hope you guys have learned a few things about the 3D camera tracker tool, as well as 3D Element, how to do some of these techniques. My name is Cherokee. Again, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/avidproductions479. Also check us out at our website, avidproductions479.com, and subscribe to us on YouTube. We have more tutorials coming out. Make sure to check out our Tutorial Grid Euro pack. We used the texture here at our Avid Productions shop site. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I have, as always. Keep updated, and I'll see you guys later.